It's been quite a year. Thank you so much. Joining me now is Congressman Benny Thompson of Mississippi, chair of the Homeland Security Committee, and Malcolm Nance, MSNBC counterterrorism and intelligence analyst. And Congressman, I want to go to you first, based particularly on your perch as Homeland Security chair. What do you make of that? Because, you know, the Capitol Police are a very well-funded organization, about $430 million, or about 2,300 sworn officers. Is the issue here the need for more personnel, or is the issue the need, in your view, for more permanent infrastructure to physically protect the Capitol? Because now we've seen it breached during an insurrection by a mob, a lynch mob, and now we've also seen there's vulnerability to an attack by a vehicle.
Well, it's a combination of both things you've identified, but there's also a need to get the line of authority between the D.C. government and the Department of Defense. So we have to coordinate that. And it's difficult when you don't have a plan to spell it out. I think the actions of January 6th and what unfortunate today, we have to put that together. We've had General Honore's report. It spells it out. We have a commitment from Congress to fund it and a supplemental. We just have to do it. There cannot be any movement back from it. We have to secure the Capitol.
And Malcolm, you know, just from a security point of view, I mean, obviously it is a public space. Ostensibly, it's meant to be accessed by the public. But at the same time, we know now that there are a great number of vulnerabilities. Do you think that it is, in a sense, almost too complicated? Because it's not a state, there are limits to what the D.C. leadership can do, and there has to be so much coordination for any kind of a security response when something goes wrong.
Well, there certainly are limits for D.C., but the real issue is in the hands of the Capitol Hill Police and the Sergeant-at-Arms of the Capitol. That site where the incident occurred today on the north side of the Capitol, just a few weeks ago, that entry control point was not accessible. It was pushed all the way down to the intersection of Louisiana Avenue and New Jersey Avenue, and there were concrete Jersey barrier run-ins that a speeding car could not get through. So by raising that profile this week and allowing access up through there, that part of Constitution, Delaware Avenue, it just gave whoever decided that he was going to carry out an incident a slightly easier pathway. But, you know, we don't know what the intent of this driver was today. We know he obviously had some motivation to have himself killed, suicide by cop, and he did want to injure people in a place that was very high profile. So this is going to give us another reevaluation as to how we allow pedestrians and vehicles to come around these entry control points. There will have to be a commission on this eventually to determine the entire parameter of how we're going to defend this facility.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Malcolm, because, you know, there has been a lot of pressure coming, particularly from Republicans, but some Democrats have voiced some concern about it, too, to sort of reopen the Capitol and make it more of a welcoming public space. Let me play for you Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell.
There have been no serious threats against the Capitol. I think we're way overreacting to the current need. I'm extremely uncomfortable with the fact that my constituents can't come to the Capitol with all this razor wire around the complex. It reminds me of my last visit to Kabul.
To add to that, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the QAnon congresswoman, tweeted, welcome to Fort Pelosi, sort of mocking the idea of all of the Capitol security. And one more, just to go from the not so sublime to the absurd. Here is a piece of the ad run by Colorado Congresswoman and gun enthusiast Lauren Boebert.
It's time to cut the crap and remember, this is the people's house. Madam Speaker, tear down this wall.
With that flourish of a gun sound at the end, Congressman, that feels entirely premature because obviously, as Malcolm just explained, there are still a lot of security issues.
Well, there's no question about it. And what you see there is the classic political response to a minority party. We have to secure the Capitol. The Capitol at this point is not secure. We can't guarantee that visitors who come, or members of Congress for that point, cannot be adequately protected. So we have to do what we have to do. It's unfortunate that my Republican colleagues and others choose to politicize security at our nation's capital. Sure, everyone would want visitors to visit the Capitol, but if we can't guarantee their safety, then we should not allow that to occur.
And Malcolm, would you recommend reestablishing some of the really sort of overwhelming security force that we saw after the insurrection? Do you think that needs to go back up, at least in part?
You know, I've done security assessments all around the world, including some big Arab capitals, and in Kabul and Baghdad. It's going to have to look like Kabul for a little while, because the insurrection and the attack on the Capitol gave our nation's enemies, including some of those who were overseas like ISIS, a baseline on how to attack the Capitol. And we have to create a system of entry control points that allow those visitors to come in there not only to feel safe, but to be safe. Because what you don't want to do is just have the gates all come down and then have somebody carry out, let's say, a vehicle driving attack where, you just drive through the parking lot and go through, injure people who might be there from an Iowa high school. We need to make the entire campus secure.
Yeah, I think it would seem so obvious, but unfortunately it's political. And we'll have you back on, Representative, to talk more about your lawsuit, which is dealing with one aspect of what happened on January 6th, obviously the instigation of it. But yeah, obviously there's some security sort of lapses there that still need to be dealt with at the Capitol. Congressman Benny Thompson, Malcolm Nance, thank you both. Be well.